Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this evening's show. Today we have got 6, if you include myself, so I'm going to say 5 of the finest international referees in the land to come and chat to you on this week, which is National Volunteers Week. So today we've got Steve Ferber, Lauren Kyancha, Dan Headley, Jan and Kaz in the house with us this evening, and we're going to run through and speak to them all this evening to find out a little bit about how they got here, well, what t-shirts they're wearing, and also, what are some of the differences between refereeing nationally and internationally. This week you've been submitting your questions, so we're going to put these questions to our group, and hopefully we'll get some good answers for you over the course of the next evening or so, hour or so even. So let's get started. We're going to start with the opening question. So just what's your name and where did you come from, and maybe tell us a bit about your t-shirt. So Steve, why don't we start with you?
Okay, Steve. When you say where do I come from, like where I am now, like I'm in Huddersfield, but you don't want my life story. But very briefly, then this t-shirt, I have to be honest, isn't. Oh, are you there? You got it. That's what you need to say. That's this isn't the official t-shirt. That's up in the roof somewhere. From Rio, and I couldn't find it. So this is a souvenir t-shirt. I bought for myself, but it's got the badging on. It's got a bit of Portuguese on it. So that's what I'm wearing tonight for this. So the colours are good. So there we go. What else for me now? You going to go around and catch us up with that bit, or do you want any more just now?
We'll go to Lauren next. I've got Lauren's next on my screen.
Hello, I'm Lauren from Bristol. My top is from Olbia, from the Regional Open last year. It was my first overseas international. Yeah.
Excellent. Dan?
Hi, Dan from Nottingham. The t-shirt, I don't know if you can see, is from the World Open in Póvoa de Varzim in Portugal from 2016. And I chose this one because it was the competition where I read the official's oath at the opening ceremony.
Excellent. Jan.
Okay, I'm Jan. I'm from Kent, and my top, you have to show it up to you, is the official BizFed top, because this week I should have been in Nantes at the competition there. So I'm wearing it in lieu of being at a competition.
Yeah, good.
And Kaz?
Okay, hi, I'm Cassandra, or better known to everyone as Cass. I live in Waterlooville, which is about 10 miles north of Portsmouth, or if I'm on speaking to somebody very posh, it's 10 miles south of Petersfield, which sounds much. But today I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see it, it's a bit dark, I don't know if you can see it. It's a top I had in Catalonia. And I was at games in Portugal in 2015, invited not by BizFed, but invited by the Catalonian committee. So I felt quite privileged to be invited along to that international event. And I loved the top. It was so comfortable. It's massive, but it was so comfortable. Love it. Okay. So I hand you back to Richard now.
Yep, I'm Rich. I have been refereeing for a little while, and I, a bit like Steve, had to go digging in the loft, but I was successful. That was partly because during lockdown we had a loft sort out. So I'm wearing one of the officials' tops from Beijing in 2008. Where it was just an incredible experience to be away in such a country at such Paralympics. But we're actually going to talk about Paralympic Games a little bit later on, so I don't want to preempt that too much. Let's start with just a little bit about when did you referee first, and kind of just talk us through a little bit around that path to becoming an international referee. And we'll go in reverse order this time. So if we go back around to Kaz, when did you start refereeing and when did you become an international referee?
Okay, I started refereeing quite a few years ago. Many of you know how old I am. So yes, I did referee quite a few years ago, but I think my first one was in the year 2000. And that was nationally at the Pons Forge, the national event, and Pam and Ian were the head referees at that time. So it was quite an exciting event for me. And then it went on to, of course, the exciting event that we experienced in 2012, whereby they needed, obviously, international referees, home counties, so home country. So a few of us went along and got our international referee qualifications in 2011, and it's been an onward journey from there. And I have to say, I am still learning. It doesn't make you one of the best referees, having refereed for so many years. You learn something every time. You can never say you know everything about boccia. It changes in every competition, but I'm still loving it.
Next up, we've got Jan.
I think I'm probably the newbie in the group because I didn't start refereeing until 2015. And my first event was at University of Surrey, and Cass was my mentor. So I was escorted into the hall and shown towards Cass, and she took me under her wing, and she hasn't stopped doing that. So that's excellent. Everybody's so supportive. And I haven't really looked back. I volunteered for everything that was possible to volunteer for. And then in 2019, did my international course. And the only thing that stopped me, unfortunately, is the virus. Otherwise, I'd be refereeing today.
Well, 2015 to 2019, you really climbed that ladder, Jan, didn't you?
I did. Once I get going, there's no stopping me. If I can see a target, then I'm going for it. And I gave Natalie a lot of grief over the years with, when's the next course? When's the next course? When can I do this? When can I do that? So I would encourage anybody, if you want to do it, if it's your goal, then you just need to nag a few people along the way to make it happen.
Yeah. Excellent. Dan, talk us through your story.
So I started refereeing in 2010. You might have seen on our Throwback Thursday from the other week at Loughborough College, through a world record attempt for the college to play boccia for 24 hours in the build up to London 2012. So I did a young officials course with Richard down at the college, and then, a bit like Jan, volunteered for everything, travelled across the country, and probably got on the staff's nerves because I was always there, but kept going. Qualified as an international referee in 2015 in Poland, and then again just continued to volunteer and attend different competitions where I was available.
Excellent. Lauren?
So I first became a referee in 2013 after watching London 2012 on a school trip and realising that there were referees and coaches. Never really thought of that before. So did a young officials course, and the first competition I refereed at was the county schools competition in 2014, and then sort of did the level 2, I think it was at the time, with Richard, and since then I've just, like the others, just volunteered at everything and don't really feel like I've not been at a competition since then, to be honest. And like Jan, did my course last year, the international course in Portugal.
Lauren, you're slightly different because you've taken this to another level. You've taken it to an academic level. Tell us a little bit about what you're studying and how does that link in with your refereeing?
Yeah, so I'm coming to the end of my degree now. So I've been studying physical education and coaching at the University of Gloucestershire, and since I started, I've been on a refereeing scholarship. So through that, I've had a lot of support from various different people with strength and conditioning, nutrition, performance lifestyle, sports psychology. So everything that the athletes would get, I've also benefited from. And I've seen the benefits of that both on and off court. And I don't think I would have managed to sort of get to this point without their support, to be honest. It's been great.
And Steve, finish us off. It was going to happen at some point, wasn't it? Steve, you're on mute.
Now, can you hear me now? Sorry. So, Cass, I was saying, I'm glad you mentioned the home internationals because I'd forgotten all those, all the Sheffield and stuff we did before that. But I suppose internationally, we drifted in through the Wigan, what were they called?
The Cheshire International.
Cheshire Internationals. It was the Building Society, wasn't it? It was one, and it was through that, I think, where suddenly I remember on one day Richard asked me would I be assistant head referee. So that threw me completely, just at one of those. And well, I still don't have much of a memory of anything that went on, but I do know shortly after that we were invited then to go to the course in 2011 in Ireland, when Cass was on the same one. And well, that was it. The end of 2011, and still then my first competition in Belfast. You had to be. It was a condition of going on the course that you were available to do the event, wasn't it? And it just blew me absolutely. This massive hall covered in blue carpet and green courts. None of this, thousands of coloured lines all over the place. And I suddenly realised I'd arrived somewhere on a quite different scale to what I'd been used to. So that was 2011. So that's some time now. Yeah.
Sorry, when did you pick up the bat first?
The first time I refereed?
Yeah.
19. I don't know. It's a long time ago. It was CP Sport days anyway. So we go back. It was just at Liverpool. I remember taking a team to Liverpool, and Shirley and Sue of CP Sport asked me, "Would you referee this one?" Well, no, I've just come with the kids. And that was it. I was all right. Then I'll do what I can, and that was it. And then the next game, of course, and the game after that, and then the week after that, and the year after that, and it just grew and grew and grew. Yeah, and I'm grateful for the invitation because it was good. Been a good route, good course.
Yeah, my experience was similar, to be honest. It was a CP Sport Northeast Championships, and it was the only championships which was midweek. Because it was held by Nissan in Sunderland, and they would only let us use the sports hall midweek. And so my dad, who was a referee at the time, just said, "Do you fancy a day off school?" I was like, "Yeah." I was 15, and went south of the Tyne, which is an experience. And then started refereeing, and then it was, "Oh, do you want to come to Sheffield? We're staying in the Hilton." I was like, "Okay, that sounds great." And kind of snowballed from there. So very much started refereeing, and then got a little bit of a bug of being in the England team as a runner, really getting pat lunches and drinks for the athletes, but continued to referee. And then I had the opportunity in 2005. If I seem to remember, I was not the first pick. Let's put it that way. I was not the first pick. There was a spot came up very, very last minute, as in several days last minute, and I was at university, and it was just finishing my summer term, and so yes, it was more a case of, "Are you free? Okay, get on the plane," rather than "You're our #1 considered pick." But got to take the opportunities, don't you? As soon as they come, you have to take them, and it's been amazing. That was 2005. So, well, goodness, that's 15 years. Who would have thought? So, Lauren and Jan, you're our newest international referees. Just talk us through that step up from national to international. I mean, Jan, you did it really quickly. Lauren, you had different perspective because you had some support coming in from university, but just talk us through that difference between international and national refereeing.
So from my viewpoint, main thing, it was the language barrier, both the athletes and fellow officials. The atmosphere obviously is that much different because there is the crowd, the audience sitting around watching. But being on court and have something happen and you say something and realise that nobody understands what you're saying. You have no Boccia England people around you. You have no Boccia England staff or fellow officials. So it's rethinking how you're going to approach things and do it from that side of things. Being on court and refereeing was just a blast. That felt at home, but that extra bit of excitement. But it was everything around the situation was just different. It sounds silly to say that, but it just was. Absolutely everything you can think of is different from what you're used to. So it's learning the patterns and learning the routines that everybody else takes for granted.
I think for me, the biggest difference was like the length of the competition. So we're used to doing sort of 3 days, 4 days maximum at home. And I think to start with, when I went to the Olbia last year, the biggest thing was the fact that it was like a week, having to prepare for that week, having to make sure that you're sort of balancing your time properly, having enough time on court, enough time away from watching, and having some time out of the hall, sort of preparing for it properly, not just the day before you go, but actually preparing properly in the week before, and then when you're there on the day as well, making sure that you're fueled and ready to referee, and then your recovery after as well. Again, that doesn't just mean on the evening, that means the week or 2 weeks when you get home as well, and then that leads into your prep for another comp, which did happen, and I was literally plane hopping last year, 18 flights in the year I did, so it was just a test of how you prepare and how you recover, and making the most of your downtime, I guess, because the schedule is slightly different.
Yeah, definitely. I think in Boccia England, our competition's generally the longest 2 days. I think for our B Cup finals. I'm trying to think. I think when we did the Cheshire Internationals, they were over 3 days. I think they were a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But you go from 3 days to a week minimum, really. And then when you do equipment check as well, when you add in equipment check, in a second, if someone wants to chip in to share a little bit about equipment check, that'd be really good. But I remember before we became BizFed, we were still under CP Israel. We used to have one competition a year. And so the World Championships would be 10 to 12 days of competition. And so you were officiating, if you include your equipment checks and all of the meetings and things, you were really officiating for 2 weeks. And yeah, those are long days. So someone want to share a little bit about what equipment check looks like at an international competition?
I just wanted to say the first thing that shocked me at equipment check internationally is it's not like the nationals where, you know, an athlete comes with a set of balls. People will come with 5 sets and put everyone through, and there'll be balls that you've never seen before, and they're all going through, and some of the athletes want the exact weight of each ball, or, you know, they want you to hold it in a certain way. It's all very, very different, and quite an eye-opener for the first time when you see all these balls coming at you, and there's cases, and there's another set, and another set, and another set. That's what really struck me the first time about equipment check.
I think in addition to that is also how relaxed players are if they bring so many balls. When some fail, it's almost as if it's okay, I've got more. Whereas you can see some players come in, a ball fails, and there's sheer horror on their faces if they say, I don't know what to do. But others, I think last year in Zagreb we took 8 balls away from one player. He wasn't bothered. He just, okay, I've got these, it's fine.
Yeah, that was quite funny. He was so relaxed about it too. That was it. It's no worry. Yeah,
I remember when we changed one of the equipment checks for the if you remember, the drop ball test. So that year was when I was first international head referee. I think it was Steve was at the competition. This was in Poznan, and I counted the amount of balls that we checked in that period. This was just, I think if I remember, it was a European Championship, so it wasn't a biggie. But we had, I've just pulled up the top stats from back then. We had an average of 18.1 balls per player, so not too high. But we tested 2,600 balls in the space of 1 day. And, you know, it was absolutely insane. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about the timings of what a day looks like as an international referee and how that's different. But this is before we're even on court. This is the days before. Yeah, over 2,600 balls tested for a European Championship. It's a different level. So,
and at that stage, Richard, weren't we still measuring head pointers and things like that as well? I can't think when that changed, but that's another stage at least we don't do anymore. Yeah.
Yes, that was literally just the ball tests. That wasn't the height check. That wasn't the ramps and putting all the stickers on the ramps. I think it would be I think it'd be fair to say we would have probably checked somewhere in the region of 8,000 to 10,000 pieces of equipment in that day and a half period. And of course, you've got to fit in team meetings and all that kind of stuff. But this is all pre-competition. What does an actual competition day look like? Dan and Kaz, maybe if you can just share, if you run us through from when you wake up, because you're normally sharing a room, so your day as a referee kind of starts when you open your eyes. When you close your eyes, run us through a typical day. Kaz, do you want to start us off?
Well, like every referee, we're all up at silly o'clock. And I think because you're sharing a room with somebody you probably don't know. So probably one of us is up at 5 because you've got to share you've got to be down at breakfast at 7 because the bus will come and pick you up at 7:30, if not earlier. And as soon as you get to the venue, it begins in earnest because you have a head referees meeting, and then you've got to go into the competition venue, onto the field of play. You're checking courts, you're checking lines, you're also putting your details in because everyone has a login number to go into their scoreboards. So you're doing that. There is so much going on before even the start of the day. I think, Dan, you'll agree with that at the very beginning of the day. That's how it is.
Yeah, and I think that start can vary as well from competition to competition. Some, if you're in walking distance of the venue, you can dictate your own timings a little bit more, but others, when you've got a 20 minute bus transfer from the hotel to your venue, if you miss it, then it's a struggle to try and work out how you're going to get there. Or you're trying to squeeze onto the next minibus that's going. So you are quite tight on timing sometimes.
And I think it's very difficult. I think if you remember when we were in Zagreb, we had some home referees that did, national referees that didn't speak any English. And that was really hard because it had to be translated into Croatian. And that took time. And of course, people were very anxious to get ready for if they were on the first line. It was very difficult to get the translations done, and then on court. Then we were in quorum because there was, I think that the quorum is important for you to be there in good time, and that's what you need. You need to pace yourself on that to make sure you've got your drinks, to make sure you've obviously done your personal visits and things, and you need to be at quorum ready, fresh for that really, really long day. You might only get 10 minutes to pick up a lunch bag and try and have your lunch, because sometimes you get, I think you'll agree, Dan, we all have a WhatsApp app on our phone, which is a group WhatsApp. So you might get the head referee putting a message on so that when you come off court, the message will come up that don't go to quorum, you're back on court, whatever. So the turnaround sometimes is very, very quick. You don't have time to even breathe. But you've got to be prepared for that. You've got to be prepared for that.
And I think, touching back on the point that Jan made earlier about being able to communicate with the athletes when you're on court with a language barrier, sometimes the call-up rooms a longer process at an international if you've got a national referee that doesn't speak English, because again, you're not only trying to get a message to the athletes to make sure they understand you, you're also trying to communicate with your liner for that game, which again may involve sort of getting another international referee from that country or somebody that can translate. So you might have 3 or 4 translations happening before you can actually get to the point that you're flipping a coin to start the game going. So it can be quite a busy time when you're in the call-up room. And I think
you've got the random checks as well, haven't you? And that makes a difference as well, because again, you've got getting the players to the random check and back in, and it's a very quick turnaround, and it doesn't happen internationally because you've got that language barrier, as you said.
There's a day before all this, of course, too, which we've not mentioned. It's like the day that you walk around the new venue. I mean, at home we tend to know them all, but the new venue, the warm-up courts, that's a newbie for us, isn't it? The call room, learning all about the procedures. Are we going to be paraded in, and the order in which we're going to parade in, opening ceremonies, all that prep goes on before we get to court, doesn't it?
Yes,
and that's a massive difference, I think. That took me quite by surprise, that all the parading in behind flags and Yeah, it was a big thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think the perk of that is the opening ceremony, which always happens, which is always quite nice as well as part of the celebration of the opening of the games, and obviously
I
the
question
closing.
always.
Sorry.
I question always.
Some better than others, but I just think it is a very, very long day. I think probably if I go by just Zagreb, where Dan and I were together last year, which was fabulous, we didn't get back to the hotel till maybe 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. And we'd be gone at 7:15 in the morning. Our last games would probably be about 6 o'clock, 6:30, and we'd probably have quite a whole list of games throughout that day. And there's no rest the following day. It all happens again, and again the following day, and again, and so it goes on. It is, you've got to really pace yourself, as Lauren said. I think you've got to be in the best frame of mind.
Yeah,
I think that was. Go on, Dan.
Sorry, I think the other thing is that can change slightly from competition to competition. So thinking of the European Championships last year in Seville, that you've got a few intense days where you've got all the group games and you go into the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and then actually on the finals day, you've perhaps only got 4 courts on in the morning, and then it's 1 court at a time in the afternoon. So actually, there was the last finals day. I was on the penultimate game, so I waited all day that first game. So again, like Lauren was saying earlier, making sure you get that break from court is a really important thing, because you could quite easily just sit there all day watching Boccia, and to some extent watching the other referees and going, oh, they do that and I don't do that, and or they do that in this way, and it's quite easy to overanalyze what other people are doing and then think that you're doing something differently, or is what I'm doing wrong. So having those breaks as well is also quite an important thing when you can.
I think it is good too to be able to watch other referees, because you learn so much from the referees. I think when Richard went to Portugal, into Povo the first time, was that 2002, Richard? No.
Well, as a referee, I went first time was 2005.
2005.
With the England team as a runner, 2002.
Exactly. And there was one particular person that really stood out for me, and I've watched her throughout, a Spanish referee, and I've watched her throughout, and she was in Zagreb last year. I hadn't seen her for so long, and she still has that presence, she still has that calmness. There's just something about referees that you pick up, and you just keep that and hope that you can pick up and use those qualities that referees have, and move on from that and use them yourself, because as you say, you learn from everybody else. Everyone's a team. You share everything. You share every quality.
Lauren, you were going to come in with something earlier.
Yeah, pretty much the same as what Dan said, to be honest. Just that preparation's key. Like, it's not the preparation that you do on court, it's also preparing yourself to have time off court. And I think that it just, that again shows the difference really between being at home and being abroad and refereeing. Yeah, it's just everything we do comes down to preparation, whether it is preparing for that day of wandering around, whether it's preparing for being in call room and having back-to-back games. You have to have plan A, B, C, D, and E. Like, it's not as straightforward as you think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to kind of summarize timings of a day. Yeah, you're up early. You're up at somewhere around the 6 o'clock mark, especially depending on your roommate and their personal habits and routines. But often the reason being is because you're sharing hotels with athletes, and we're not really meant to be eating with athletes. And so just thinking back to Seville last year, we had to eat our breakfast essentially before the athletes, then had to wait around for transport, which isn't necessarily, well, if we thought our buses were bad when it comes to schedule, they can be very bad when it comes to competition time. And you're then at the venue for 8 o'clock. You've got meetings through till about 8:30. Then you go to start to get the schedule for the day, refereeing all day, all the way through till 6, 7 o'clock at night. And often there's only one bus home. So if your match is finished at 3 p.m., there's only one bus home. and that bus is at 7 p.m., you then have 4 hours of downtime at that point. But it's not helpful downtime. it's not something where you can recharge in that moment. Then of course you get on the bus, you get back, and you have to wait to eat. You know, in Seville, they tend to eat a little bit later than us Brits. And of course we're sharing with athletes, so we were eating at 10 o'clock at night, and going to bed therefore at 11, possibly even
And
later.
then by the time you catch up with everyone on the events of the day as well, like the inevitable, what was the weirdest thing that happened to you today? Like, it's just.
Well, that's one of the questions coming up a little bit later.
Oh
Laura.
God. Okay.
You
I'm gonna regret
genuinely
mentioning
are
that.
talking as a referee. You are in that role. I would say you could quite easily argue from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Quite
Easily.
comfortably. You are an international referee on duty, performing the things that you need to do for what's that, 18 hours or so.
Yeah.
Quick maths, that was wrong, wasn't it? 17 hours or so. Let's round it to 18. It sounds
Yeah,
more
that's
hardcore.
when I was mentioning when I was like when I started on the scholarship, that was the biggest thing. And I said we have 18-hour days. On average, we're looking at 18 hours a day. We're, like you said, on duty. And they were like, no, that's rubbish. That's rubbish. Like, and I was like, no, really, and just step it out like that. And they were like,
Times 7 days.
okay, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
times
yeah.
7 days.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to stop part one. Come and join us for part two. That'll be up in the next couple of days, where we will conclude our conversation with our top international referees.